Okay, welcome back. Welcome to Schedule 1, the show about psychedelics and other hallucinogenic drugs. This is the first episode. I don't know if there's going to be more than one part. Maybe not. Maybe so. To the what we're going to talk about is the introduction to the psychedelic experience. And
Yeah. Oh, well, so in doing my prep for this week's episode, I actually found out that psychedelic is Greek for soul revealing. Um,
hmm,
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Um,
that is the word for psychedelic in ancient Greece.
well, yeah, I guess so. Like, I don't know if, I mean, I know psychedelics have existed for thousands of years. I don't know if the Greeks were doing, I actually don't know if the Greeks did any psychedelics,
I
but
imagine like some people did, like they ate some funky mushrooms.
I'd imagine so, but yeah, I mean, people
Uh,
have been using variations of different things for millennia. But anyway, so in my quest to just learn more about the psychedelic experience in general, I went around looking at different definitions about what different philosophers had to say about it, and I think the definition that I've kind of landed on,
mhm.
this is an amalgamation of different ones that I found online. Um,
Big word.
I know, thank you. It's the word of the day.
Amalgamation.
The definition I landed upon is the state of altered consciousness in which one connects with or better understands the world around them. Um, that's kind of what I went with. I like the way that sums
Mhm.
everything up.
I think
Uh,
everybody has their own like definition and opinion just because it's such a difficult concept to describe,
yeah, it's
especially
such.
to someone who hasn't had a psychedelic experience.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's the crux of it. It's a real bitch to determine. Um, what I also saw commonly was that it was a intoxicated state, transcendent to sobriety. So you're
yeah,
definitely not sober, but typically when you say you're not sober, that implies like a negative connotation or a impaired connotation.
hmm,
Um, as opposed to like I like the way they worded
an
that transcendent.
enhancement.
Yeah, like I enjoy that. Alan Watts, he actually said like his definition of what the psychedelic experience was and what its purpose was is he said it wasn't so much about learning about the world around you. It was more about unlearning bad habits that the world and society in general has kind of put onto you. So, in his view, the psychedelic experience is the process of unlearning bad habits and thoughts given to you by society, which I
Yeah,
really like that approach. That was a super cool definition to me. Um,
unlearning. It's really funny. It's like forgetting everything that was forgetting bad things that were taught. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I really like that definition. I like a lot of what Alan Watts just has to say in general.
I
He,
just like everything that comes out of his mouth. It's so smooth and
I know.
staticky, but it's just so enticing the way he talks.
Imagine if they had not shit to your audio to record his lectures.
Imagine if like they quit putting shit to your music behind his voice. I wonder if he gets paid royalties or his family gets paid royalties off of that.
I'd like to think so, but probably not.
I don't
Um,
think so.
what was also interesting about when I was reading more about what Alan Watts had to say about the psychedelic experience is you don't have to use a psychedelic to enter the psychedelic experience. There
Mhm.
are other natural ways to do so. Meditation, I think, being like the second biggest one. Um, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. So in Alan Watts' opinion, like the psychedelic experience, throughout that experience, your mind undergoes the same transformation that it does when you start practicing Taoism or just the way of
Yeah.
Zen in general. And I thought that was super interesting. I attended a lecture yesterday, actually,
Mhm.
about Zen and Buddhism, and the lecturer, who was a published author and apparently a Zen master, I guess, or just someone that heavily practices Zen. He was saying a lot of very similar ideas to that, and I thought that was super interesting.
What was that all like? Did you get a fundamental understanding of Buddhism from that?
It wasn't so much like an understanding of Buddhism, but it was like an understanding of, I don't know the right way to put it. The lecture was essentially just about Zen and meditation and what it can do for you, how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, kind of like that. So
What's the
instead,
proper way to meditate?
um, so the way he kind of described it is, he said it's something that is somewhat difficult to do at first. He calls his book is called Taming the Drunken Monkey, and he describes our normal sober mind as a drunken monkey, running around doing whatever it can, really just fucking off. He said the proper way to meditate is to quiet that drunken monkey by just focusing on something, and really just keep bringing your attention to it. And he said it can be difficult at first, but with practice, it's just something you get used to. He said his personal go-to for meditation is he closes his eyes and he focuses on the air entering and leaving his nose. So with every inhale, he just envisions all the air around his nose slowly going in, and then the opposite on the exhale. And that's kind of like his quick shorthand version of how to correctly meditate.
I was gonna talk about what I've seen like there's fucking 1,000 ways to meditate, but one way that I've like understood is you sit and you relax, and instead of trying to like lose focus of everything, you focus on everything that's like coming to you right then and there. Like you hear a sound, you focus on it, and you categorize it as like a sound, and then you move on, and then whatever hits you, and eventually like there's nothing left to handle, and you reach this place of Zen, quotation marks. I don't really understand what Zen is. I guess it's just tranquility.
I think it is. It's like, I guess it's just like this inner state of peace. I think that's the best way to describe it. I know one of the things he said with like in terms of meditation is you need to learn that like you're not your mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The thoughts that your mind has are not your own. So instead of, while meditating, if these thoughts were to come to your mind, instead of thinking like, oh, that's good or that's bad, or having an emotional reaction to them, he said, stay stoic and just observe the thoughts. Be aware of them, but don't interact with them. Don't force them out. Don't force them in. Don't just know that they exist, and then move on to the next thing. It's something I would like to explore more. I'm definitely interested by.
You just have to be diligent. Like you gotta stick to it. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part of anything, dude. Sticking to it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, not only for that, it's just like in Western society, I feel like, I don't know, maybe in Eastern society, people just kind of know how to correctly meditate, as opposed to, well, obviously, just because you're born in the East doesn't mean you know how to meditate. But like culturally,
you grew up in a culture of meditation.
Yeah, like it's a normal thing. It's an accepted thing, and I think like as a concept, it's just something everyone kind of gets because it's a part of the culture. As opposed to,
not breaking you off, but I think as far as Eastern culture, we associate meditation with their culture. They associate, our kind of meditation with the recreation, like hikes and stuff like that, like sports and activities that we really use recreation as a form of meditation.
Yeah, that's one of the things the lecturer said frequently is he said, we as Americans, as Westerners, really, we have tons of non-traditional forms of meditation, like working on a car, or if you're practicing martial arts, but that's universal, that's worldwide. He said a lot of like people that play sports, like a pitcher, like you just enter this perfect state of zen, this state of awareness. I think he kind of equates it to living in the moment. Like when you are perfectly in the moment, you are 100% present. The past and the future doesn't exist. They're not thoughts that even exist in your mind. You're just
like when you're going hard coloring, like on like in a coloring book when you were a kid, and you just forgot about everything and you were coloring. Like there wasn't things going through your mind. You were just, you were recreating, as like a form of meditation.
Mm-hmm. So I think it was a really cool lecture, but I think I'm going to try and find like, I don't know, maybe someone IRL that I can talk to about meditation, as opposed to like trying to find some fuck on YouTube explain it.
Some fuck on YouTube, yeah. I think there's a lot of fucks on YouTube.
But anyway, so moving away from
off of that tangent, that very long tangent.
Yeah, off of that tangent. So from my research, it seems like there are two major classifications or two major aspects of the psychedelic experience. There's obviously more, but the two big themes that I kept seeing pop up were the physical and the emotional. Yeah, I was bringing this up so we could just kind of bounce around the ideas for a little bit. So, for example, with the psychedelic experience, in terms of the physical effects, some of the examples of that would be like perception is increased. Things like color and sound, they get increased, they get amplified.
Stimuli is changed, pretty much.
Yes. And
your stimulation is improved. Go ahead.
Objects also have more significance. That's another like big reoccurring idea of the physical side of the psychedelic experience, which it's true. It's weird. I would like to wonder. Well, I'd like to know why objects are so much more significant. I guess maybe like because your cultural frame has shifted. Objects that you have already assigned a certain value to, that value is, if not taken away, it's at least skewed. So maybe that's why a lot of objects just like they look completely different. They have a in terms of
I feel as people we wait, go back to what you were saying. I just completely blanked.
I was just saying objects have like a significance that
okay, yeah. Well, like as in people we like when we're on the psychedelic experience, we like to make metaphors. And I feel like we draw connections between things, and when we see items, how that you say they have more significance. I feel like we're imprinting, what's going on our mind on that object, and that's what's making it significant. I feel like, especially like just for an example, our bro, when he was tripping and he was having a bad trip, he started relating things that were happening to him in his mind and bad experiences with bad symbols, and he was projecting them onto the environment, and they became significant to him.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never considered that.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it from many ways.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The truth is nobody really knows. I feel like the psychedelic experience, once you've had that experience, it's almost like another sense, I'd say a sixth sense, but we have, I don't know, like we have more than five senses, but another sense in a way. It's kind of like describing a sense to someone who doesn't have a sense, like describing color to a blind person, taste to someone who has no tongue, sound to someone who's deaf. It's hard and possibly hard to do.
That's a really cool analogy. I've never thought about, like, I don't know, psychedelia creating a new sense,
a new world.
Like the reason that's why it's so difficult to explain to people is because, I really like that analogy. I've never heard that before. Well, continuing on with like the aspects of the psychedelic experience. So, that's the physical. The other big one is the emotional. And with that comes like the connectedness, the exaggerated emotions. So some people, I'm back and forth on whether or not this is true. So when I take LSD, specifically LSD, I feel like I can understand the actions behind meanings a lot better, and I can just understand people a lot better. But I don't know if I really can, because in whatever weird way LSD has just made me super hyper empathetic, or if I'm just really high and I'm being arrogant by thinking I can understand and pick apart everything that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it could put you in. I don't want to say the word analytical because I use it too much. I mean, it just puts you in a observing way, and I mean, I get that too. How you can kind of speech is weird. How when people talk, you kind of just you don't really listen to what they say. You kind of pick up what their emotions are when they're talking. And try to decipher from their emotions what they're saying.
I know with my most recent acid trip, after the peak, one of the ways I spent it is I listened to podcasts. I watched people play games together on YouTube, and I quickly watched 10-ish minutes of different live action TV shows. And I feel like in a lot of those situations, like if someone was uncomfortable or they were nervous, or whether they were just really happy, I felt like I was able to pick up on that a lot easier than I would have sober.
Do you feel like you have difficulty picking up on people's emotions sober?
I mean, I don't think so, but it would be like, okay, so specifically, I was listening to a podcast, and this podcast has 3 hosts, and I feel like when I was just listening to them banter back and forth, like,
was it cheeky banter?
Yes, it was cheeky banter. When I was listening to them banter back and forth, on the acid, I was able to pick apart when they were trying to like force a laugh for the camera, or when they were trying to I don't know. I felt like
the authenticity of their emotion.
Yeah.
When it became fake and when it was real.
Kind of like. I felt like I could tell when they were putting on a show, because it's a pretty large podcast and they're on camera. So I felt like I could tell when they were kind of exaggerating and, just showcasing showmanship for the audience. And I felt like when they stopped doing that and they were being authentic friends with one another, I could also pick up on that, as opposed to sober, where I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's just a joke.
It's all banter.
Yeah.
It's all cheeky banter.
But I don't know if I wanted to like touch on this a little bit, but the connectedness that the psychedelic experience brings. I don't know how much on the topic I have to say about it, but I have to at least include that it's legitimate. Like, I feel like there is an empathy that gets, I don't know what the right word would be.
Installed.
Yeah, improved, I'll go with. Increased. I feel like it's just easier to connect to people. It's easier for me to watch the news and actually feel bad when they say X amount of people died in Y. Yeah,
like you've forgotten your immunity to the world. It's like you're hearing something new without you being, conditioned to it.
Yeah. It's just...
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's little things like that. Like, I don't know. When I watch movies now, it's easier for me to get attached to the characters. I feel like it's just... it's easier for me to sympathize with the plights of other... Not even humans, just other creatures in general. Like, I feel like it's easier for me to connect to just life.
That goes, but considering your change from sober self to this new psychedelic after the experience, were you having trouble doing that, beforehand?
Yeah, of course. Just because like pre psychedelia, it's very easy to just, I don't know, watch the news or read an article about 10,000 people getting massacred in the XYZ genocide and just being like,
Or
well,
300 people dying on a bus ramp crash in Uzbekistan. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's easy like pre psychedelia to be like, well, at least I don't live there, and then just move on and do whatever I want. Um, as opposed to kind of now where it's like kind of hurts a little bit to hear that there
I
was a
think
genocide.
I went from a very what I imagined hardened, fake hardened
Mhm.
persona from like a more conservative idealism to more progressive idealism after psychedelics, just because I felt more empathetic towards other people, and it just kind of brought out the stupidness of my past decisions. Like how did I think that way?
Mhm.
What a big change it is. I think that's part of growing up, but I also think it's part of the experience as well.
That's true. I think the psychedelic experience and just growing up and maturing in general, when you kind of combine those two, the effects can be even more significant as opposed to like, say, we started taking psychedelics when we were 27 and
Yeah.
we're pretty much like, we've done all the maturing we're really going to do.
When somebody, I mean, that's another thing. I feel like psychedelics can change your mind. Way more better than you just word of mouth. I mean, when
Hmm.
you hear something and you form a belief, uh, the chance that someone's going to change your belief very slim. But psychedelics have the power, after an experience to change your beliefs and make you question, your own beliefs.
Hmm.
Question what's true and question how you really feel about something, not necessarily what people told you how to feel.
That's a good point. I feel like now I like when hearing statistics, when hearing news, when hearing controversial political statements, I feel like I actually think about them more now as opposed to pre psychedelia, which is when I would just make like half-second snap judgments on where I stood on that issue, and then kind of didn't really give any thought as to why that's where I stood. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people, like as dumb as it sounds, they don't really have any reasoning for the
Why
positions
they
they
stand
have.
where they stand.
Yeah,
It's just how it's always been. The
yeah,
world's most deadly phrase.
yeah.
I heard somebody say that and I really took to it.
I do like. Excuse me. Yeah, I've never heard that before. I really like that.
um Going on from there, we're talking about the psychedelic experience. Have you read The Psychedelic Experience by Timothy Leary
I'm
or
not
listened
done
to
with
it?
it. Yeah, I'm not done with it, but I'm about I'm about halfway into it. It's for those of you that aren't familiar, I believe the psychedelic experience was a book written in tribute to Aldous Huxley, and it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of an extension of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Um, that's how I interpret it anyway. It's a short book. It's like a guide on
Yeah,
what an
it's not very
LSD.
long. It's not a novel.
Yeah, it's like 40 or 50 pages. Like I've just been too lazy to finish it.
But it
Um,
is a challenging read. Like it's not something simple.
yeah.
Lots of like deep meaning and spiritualism, mystical ideas are in the book as well. I listened to it just like a pod or an audio book, and it was only like 40 minutes long. But at the same time, it was set very like Tibetan-y with a gong, and the guy changing his he was shuffling around or some shit every time he'd hit this gong. It was an interesting, almost theatrical production. But I wanted to like hit on some few points. Surprisingly, he makes some. No, I'm just kidding. He makes some really good points about like what you're saying, the
Oh, the high
emotional.
priest of the LSD church makes some good points in his book.
Yeah, he makes some really good points. I don't know who this dude is, or what's his basis for knowledge is. But I mean, he makes some good points, I guess. Um, he talks about like in the book he talks about like a very powerful psychedelic experience, and trying to have a guide to get through it and a guide to get afterwards. But
Mm-hmm.
he talks about 5 points that disappear when you get this really deep psychedelic experience. And he says first off is anxiety, anger, doubt, desire, and his final one is inertia. And I don't really know what that one means. He said inertia or laziness in the next like quote. I didn't really like pick up what that meant.
So in this explanation, was he saying that while in the psychedelic experience, these 5 points no longer exist?
Yeah, when your ego starts to dissolve, these things dissolve with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through a point of no wants or needs, no doubts or speculation, and then you go through no pleasure or fear. And when I was having my deep mushroom trip, my ego death on my mushrooms, I went through points where I was just occasionally losing parts of my identity. Like I'd lose my anxiety, and then I'd lose all kinds of desire, and eventually I got this place where I was like, damn, I don't really desire anything. And that's an odd place to be. Like, you don't really care for anything. You don't want anything. You're indifferent and kind of apathetic about everything. And it sounds like no desire would be a good thing. Like, you're not desirous. But I don't know if that's a word. But, but at the same time, I mean, you don't have kind of like a push or a want to improve or anything. It's just kind of a blankness. And
I believe that I mean, I'm half speaking out of my ass here, but I believe like that state you're referring to is what the Buddhists consider nirvana. Like that complete state of just I don't know, oneness, I guess, like where you are
you're not longing, and you're not like, I mean, the complete apathetic experience. And it's not necessarily, I mean, depending on what your environment is and how you're responding to it, it can be scary or it can be calming. I feel like if you're in a point where you're desiring a lot of things and you're just based on materialism, you get to that point of not desiring anything and you're shocked. I mean, you're kind of scared. It's definitely an interesting experience. Being stripped away of your wants and your needs, and just kind of sitting there and looking at yourself.
That is super interesting.
This was just the first kind of the first level of Timothy Leary's explanation of the ego death or the super psychedelic experience.
Well, definitely keep going if you have more to go off of.
No. I mean, if you wanted to interject there's more to be said later.
Oh, so I don't know like how much value this statement has, but I know I was watching a documentary, and I believe it was Neurons to Nirvana. And one of the things they said that kind of really resonated with me is people that are obsessed or addicted to certain things. And I'll stretch the definition of addiction here: food, money, material things, wealth, power, shopping.
But then you have to define addiction.
Yeah, so for this example, I'm stretching addiction to mean like something you enjoy so much that the majority of your time is spent thinking about it or just enjoying that thing. In Neurons to Nirvana, they said a lot of people, like the way Western society is just established, built, and ran, it causes a lot of people to have a hole in their life. And this hole in other cultures is filled with spiritualism. In ours, though, it is this is a weird way to word it. In our culture, it's filled with the, I guess, desires of the individual, which is why shopaholics can never own enough clothes, why workaholics can never be high enough in their job.
Why alcoholics can't drink enough.
Yes, why alcoholics can't drink enough. I think in psychology, I think there is a distinction between the kinds of quote unquote addiction. Like,
yeah, there definitely is.
The addictions I'm referring to, I guess, would be social or cultural addictions, as opposed to like substance addictions, like heroin or fucking Xanax or something.
I think there's a lot to be said about addiction. Maybe in another podcast. I feel like I have a lot to say on it. But I mean, it's very. I feel like you can offend somebody with just by your definition of addiction.
Yeah, I know.
Very misunderstood.
That's why the addictions I'm referring to for the hole that people try to fill in their life. I guess social addictions or cultural addictions. Something that it's not. You won't die if you can't do the task or enjoy the object, but it's something that
it's not a dependency. It's just kind of a desire,
a life controlling desire.
Okay, yeah, but it's not it's a mental addiction, not a physical addiction.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to. Yeah, that's probably. Yeah. Because the addiction, I would say, feeds the ego, which would circle around to it all being mental.
You had to hear that?
Yes, I can hear talking, but I can't tell like what's being said.
Okay, the squad rolled through. I didn't hope it bothered the podcast. But yeah, true.
Oh, anyway, continue on with your other points.
I mean, I went through level 1. I think he said the level 2. I mean, I listened to it kind of high, and then I read some notes on it. So I mean, I didn't get 100%. I'm not a scholarly understanding, but his level 2 was, the typical, psychedelic. Your thoughts are at super speed.
Mm-hmm.
You can sometimes get the hallucinations of heaven or hell, and these level 2 ego death hallucinations or experiences. And I mean, I definitely had a hell experience one time. I don't know if you've ever had something that spiritual.
I recently had a very strong LSD trip that I think I was going to talk about after we were done talking about really all this. But I would consider it. I would consider it a spiritual experience, but it definitely wasn't negative at all.
Illegal we were gonna have to search your room.
I'm doing a recording right now. But I gotta get back.
Okay.
I thought you guys.
Hey, we're at the pool. You're invited. Come if you want to.
Sorry about that.
Sounds like the pigs are about to raid your room.
Yeah, I had to fucking fight them off and told them I'd plead the fifth. But what were we at? I'm sorry, I fucking had to go off.
Oh, it's cool. Is your door locked out of curiosity?
Yeah, it is. But were you talking about your heaven or hell experience?
Yeah. So I had recently a particularly strong, what I would consider spiritual LSD experience, but it wasn't rough or negative at all. It was incredibly positive.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we'll get in more into that a little later.
I mean, it's setting itself up here. I mean, you might as well start it if you want to talk about.
Fair enough. I trying to think of where I would want to start.
How much did you take?
Just under 300 micrograms.
Okay.
So
of LSD.
Yes. I apologize. I'm trying to find. I have. Okay. Yeah. I was trying to find. I wrote down notes during and after the trip, and I was trying to find those, and I just did. Yeah, so it was just under 300 micrograms of LSD. And I broke a couple of my own rules here. I usually only take acid early in the morning and the morning. This time I dropped it at 7 o'clock at night, and
Ooh, bold move, Cotton.
I know. And I stayed inside my room the whole time. I've tripped in my room the entire time before, but never at this high a dose. Very regularly when I take above 150, I usually peak outside and then come in for post peak. It's just like the way I prefer to do things. This time I was peaking inside on an amount I haven't, the most I've ever taken. And it was getting really difficult for me to, I don't know, like stay in this reality. I know when things started getting really, really intense for me, a quarter of my vision, like just say the left side of my left eye, was just white. Wherever I would look, it was just like this pure blinding whiteness, but only for like a quarter of my vision. Everywhere else, I was seeing, I guess, just insane fractals. I guess that's the best way to put it. I would see, like, I have Christmas lights that are suspended in my room, and I would see these beams of light connect the lights to the wall, and then the beams would spiderweb out, and then it was kind of like the blueprint of, I don't want to say reality, that sounds too cheesy, but just like it was like the schematics of what I was looking at in like a highly geometric world. And it got to where I stopped talking for 30 minutes to an hour before this happened. It got to where I lay down in my bed and I was just looking straight up, and the white light was slowly taking over all of my vision, and the rest of my vision that wasn't covered by a white light was just, I looked like I was looking through a kaleidoscope and I couldn't take the kaleidoscope away. It was just fractals and breaking geometric shapes in every direction. After a little bit of this, I decided I can't stay in this room. I need to go to the balcony. And when I went to the balcony, I mean, I did, but I survived, so it's all gooch. When I went out to the balcony, I was sitting on a lawn chair that we have out there, and I was looking up into the night sky, and I would see these strings of white light come out from the sky and attach themselves to me, and I felt them pulling me away. I felt like it felt like something was trying to destroy me, I guess. And as it was happening,
pull you apart.
Yeah. It was just trying to like the sky was just trying to take me away, like separate me from my body. And at the time, I was thinking about it, and I interpreted
it's pulling your spirit, like your spirit away from your body.
Yeah, like that's a good way to put it. It connected. Yeah, thank you. The strings connected to my spirit, and they were trying to separate me from my body. At the time, I interpreted this as my ego, or I don't know if ego is the right word. It was, I guess, my consciousness trying to show me what was happening to my ego. So though my experience might not be, I'm back and forth on whether or not it was ego death.
Now, what were you feeling? That's the real question.
God, I felt like something was reading a list of just like my bio. Like I felt like something was running through everything that makes me me. And it didn't have any attitude with what it was reading. It was seeing my reactions to them, and it would be like, "Well, you like apples more than oranges," and then just wait for my answer, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm pretty okay with that." And then it would just go through thousands of things, and like almost everything, I was like,
"The boobs."
Yeah, it was like reading off goes all these different things about me, and I was nodding in agreement with all this. Like, I enjoyed everything it was saying about me. I interpret this as like the hyper introspection that people typically get on a high level of on some kind of psychedelic substance.
Yeah, it sounds
And
like that.
yeah, so that's what I assumed it was, and I assumed like I'm okay with who I am, like deep inside. I can chill with that dude. That's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of what I
So
experienced.
you came to a self-actualization. I mean, that was positive, and you were okay with it.
I believe so.
And that's kind of my theory. After you have the psychedelic experience, the self-revelation of another one will not be as painful as if it was your first, intense one.
That's
And
interesting.
that's kind of what my theory is. Once you get the first one out of the way, you kind of become someone else. Not become someone. You change your ego, and I mean it's still a part of you, but you can separate yourself from it. And once you get that ripping away again, it's not nearly as painful, and you're not nearly as unreceptive to it.
See, that's why like a lot of people they say I've been reading a lot about just ego death in general, and a lot of people say there's a fear, there's like a struggle. Some people say like that fear comes from you not being willing of just letting go and letting your ego dissolve.
Mhm.
Maybe I was just really willing to let my ego die.
I
Or
mean, no,
maybe
your ego is going to fight tooth and nail. So, I mean, your experience sounds very revelation. I mean, self-analyzing, very, it doesn't sound like ego death. Maybe just like a little, dissolution, slow, gradual,
well, see, some people like that.
transparency.
That's what I'm having trouble understanding because so many different people like there's a lot of different definitions for ego death.
Yeah.
Some people say it's not even a death. It's just it's a removal of the self. And some people say that that is not a powerful or well, it's definitely powerful. That's not a painful or a scary process. The removal of the self. Other people say ego death is a very terrifying thing. So that's why maybe I'm on the spectrum somewhere.
Mhm.
Maybe I was building up to it. But so yes, here's the other part I wanted to include. After I kind of have this, I don't know, this thing go over and read me everything about it, kind of tell me who I am. I was really okay with that. And then when the process kind of stopped, I was overcome with this sense of peace and just inner tranquility that I've never experienced.
Mhm.
I would equate it to what Buddhists attempt to get to. I would think I was in nirvana.
Mhm.
While in this state, I was again, still on the balcony. I was looking up at the night sky and just thinking about all the life on the planet, all the living that's going on right now, and it was just beautiful. Everything I could think of was beautiful. I would look at the stars, and I was just blown away by how incredible they were.
Mhm.
That a lot of people say there's like an inner peace that follows ego death because after ego death there's no longer the ego. It is just you're in nirvana. You are in a state of pure bliss.
Yeah.
That's why I'm back and forth on whether or not I entered ego death or not.
My
Regardless, it was one of the strongest experiences I've ever had. But I don't know if it would be considered ego death.
I think I mean, IMO, IMHO, ego to me is just the way your personality builds its reality. Ego is like your characteristics and how you respond to everyday life. Whether you're an anxious person or an angry person or, someone who's lustuous. That's your ego. That's how you perceive life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through an ego dissolution, you have this, this perception ripped away, and you're forced to perceive it a new way, in a completely different way. So, I mean,
Can you hear that?
can I hear what? No, I don't
Okay.
think so. But when you have an ego death, to me, it's a I don't want to say traumatic experience. It's a powerful, almost uh, unpleasurable experience. When you said you were feeling, at peace after you came down, that makes a lot of sense. From like an ego death standpoint, because after you have this ego death and after you experience, this new persona, after the veil of ego is ripped away from your eyes, you have kind of a peace. And if you have somebody to talk to, definitely you can come to somebody talking to you can help you work out your problems as well. You're talking to yourself. But I mean, there's a peace after you've come to be, acquainted to your egoless self.
Yeah, it was this like
insightfulness.
Peace is the best word to describe it. Like I just felt like, I don't know.
Everything was all right.
Yeah, it was.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, it was truly fantastic. And for the next couple days, like I'm feeling good, but for 2 or 3 days after that, I was still like on this euphoric afterglow that like everything. I saw the beauty in everything for a while. It was really fantastic, but like that's kind of my main question that I'm back and forth on.
Now, it sounds like our ego death. My personal opinion, I think you did have, a form of ego death. It's a lot different than other people's ego deaths, and that may just because you had an ego death off of LSD, which is,
that's true too.
Not, necessarily a downer of a substance.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that it was. Yeah, I would assume different substances have different ways of inducing ego death.
I think mushrooms can be a little bit more, sour, and our ego death experiences are very different because you said you're going through a nice afterglow of positive effects. I went through an afterglow of negative effects. Like I went through this stretch where I wasn't adjusting to this egoless self. Like I wasn't adjusting to seeing myself without this ego. Not necessarily like I lost my ego forever, but I could still associate egoless self with ego self, and I could see, I could still be in that kind of mindset without my previous actions. And I went through like a time of adjustment that was just tough. And I still had these like phases where I was desireless, and I mean sometimes it was a positive thing, like I was at zen and at peace, and other times I was like, what is there to do next? Because the Western civilization, you're not really looking for that peace, you're kind of just looking for the next object of your time. I mean,
that's true.
Being without a path is kind of odd. I mean, without any need to, like, I wasn't having the desire to eat or live or do anything. I mean, I was just like laying there just yeah, trying to figure out what was going on. And
that's
I think
really
that speaks to the power of ego death when you fuck around.
Do you? I don't know. I think after we record this, I'll probably read a few more just I guess trip reports about people that experience ego death through LSD and see if the experience lines up with mine. Do you think like the disposition of the person, like just their personality in general, can kind of affect the process before, during, and after ego death? I feel like
if a person is more open-minded, they would go through ego death a lot easier than someone who is more set in their beliefs and set in how they feel. And sometimes people just attribute that to comfort, but I feel like that a person with unwavering ideas would be more susceptible to a bad experience.
I think so that does make a lot of sense. What I'm getting at is, do you think it was a different, easier, and just more pleasurable experience for me because I at least have some knowledge about what's going on and what to expect, as opposed
I
to
think it
during
was.
your trip when I think we were still pretty new to the whole.
I think
I
that
mean,
trip
we're no
was-
fucking masters, but we are somewhat experienced with psychedelics now.
Yeah, I had smoked some weed and like we had eaten mushrooms before, but I mean, this is the second time we tried it, and I really wasn't ready for it. But now, I mean, at the level, I mean, the comfort we're at, and in terms of losing your mind, tripping, I think it was a lot easier for you to to handle this ego death. I mean, you could have just handled it very well. Being used to the psychedelic experience, it wasn't something like brand new to you.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That does make sense too.
But I mean, that's really all I had prepared for this episode. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah. So kind of two more things. One of these is just a side note. While on a substance, I think it's kind of fun to think about what that substance is doing to you and how it's interacting with you.
Mhm.
So I was just thinking about LSD in general and what it is and what it does. And what I'm about to say isn't new. I've seen people say similar things online, but one of the milestones that I've wanted to reach with LSD is full synesthesia. I have wanted to listen to a song and be like, wow, this sounds really blue right now, or just something along those lines. But while I was tripping my damn balls off, I came to the idea that LSD is synthesized synesthesia. I feel like by taking it at all, it's already blending your senses. That's why I think personally that's why I'm so intrigued by everything, because my senses are blended. I've never experienced it before, and it's piqued my interest. And with my interest being piqued just from a general synesthesia that's already going on in my mind, that increases my interest in everything else around me.
I've had synesthesia, like mixing taste and texture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this texture tastes so good.
See, that's what I was getting at. That's like the more true version of synesthesia that I would like to experience. But I think maybe on mushrooms, like any dose, but I think on any dose of LSD, like that, just by virtue of seeing the breathing of walls, that itself is synesthesia. I also,
somebody's knocking on the fucking door.
do you want to? I didn't hear anything. Do you want to?
I'm gonna go answer it. You can just go on and talk.
All right, yeah. I'll ramble. So the other kind of idea that I came to is that the visuals are representative of our emotions. I've seen this mentioned in other places, but it kind of really clicked with me in this previous trip. I think LSD is such a complicated thing, and while it's in the process of stirring our pot and blending everything, one of the blends is our brain is literally showing us our emotions, and that's what the visuals are. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I'm back. Guess who's back? Back. That's all the songs I know about being back.
So that's all I had in terms of the trip. It was a fantastic trip. Really enjoyed it. But anyway, I had one final part about the psychedelic experience, and I think this is the part everyone is most familiar with. It is the, I guess, 5-tiered scale of the psychedelic experience. I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about each level, but I went ahead and wrote down what they are and how to reach them. So typically, with psychedelia, there is a categorized list of 5 different levels, and each ascending level is a stronger, more intense version of the experience. Level 1 is, it can be reached with Kush, in really any of its forms. At its most basic, it is mood enhancing and sensually enhancing.
Ever had a wank? It's kind of good.
Taste, sound, touch, I'd say. Not so much visually
Yeah.
for me. But all of my
Taste
other
of a McDouble gangbang. Delicious.
unworldly. It yeah, that at a level 1, it's just kind of like a general enhancement of things, which is what weed is known to do. That makes sense. Level 2, this can be reached typically with high amounts of Kush or low doses of shrooms. Mild visual effects and your brain thought filters are bypassed. So why a lot of people don't like smoking too much weed is they say it gets them
Introspective.
it gets them introspective. They get like sketched out because of the introspection. In this level 2 experience, I guess like I don't know, your brain is just unfiltered now. So whatever
I feel like
thought you
people, when they're first starting to smoke and they get really high, they get very anxious. And I remember when we were first getting high, I remember like getting high at our buddy's house, and I'd be like staring at the door, like, "Damn, I bet the SWAT team's gonna break in any moment and seize us for our gram of weed."
That's funny. I don't know. Like, I think the anxiety went like I don't really remember phases of being that anxious. Obviously, if we're in a sketchy part of town or smoking and gets a sketchy situation, I'll obviously be more anxious. But in terms of like rationally, okay, I'm smoking at a friend's house, nothing's going to happen. The anxiety, I think, went away from me pretty early because I've been smoking for too long, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that anxiety I just kind of bypassed early on. Plus, I'm a pretty laid back person, so the anxiety is hard to bring to the surface. A level 3 experience. This can be experienced with shrooms or acid, moderate doses of either. What's the hallmark of a level 3 experience is very obvious visuals and profound insights. So I guess, I mean, the obvious visuals, they speak for themselves. The normal waving that we're all used to seeing, that's kind of indicative of a level 3 experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the profound insights were interesting. I feel like I have a lot of, I don't know.
Level 3s.
Yeah. I'd say level 3 is pretty par for the course for me in terms of when I take acid.
Yeah, like a pop of acid. That's pretty much it. I understand. Yeah, an acid trip is kind of like level 3.
I could definitely get behind that. The word profound to me has massive meaning to it. When
Mhm.
I hear profound, I think of like world altering. So I don't know if I would say I frequently have profound thoughts on acid trips, but I definitely like a lot of dots connect that didn't connect before. A lot of new thoughts that make a lot of sense to me and kind of impact my life bubble up and enter my head. I don't know if I feel correct in calling those profound, but they're definitely impactful and amazing. Anything you want to add to level 3?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of acid trips are level 3. I remember some introspection I had on acid one time. It was kind of like, a moderate trip, and I remember sitting there thinking, just contemplating. I remember acid telling me to break up with my girlfriend, and I was like, I don't think I should do that. And like, eventually, I mean, I got to the point where I was like, yeah, it was right. I should really break up with my girlfriend. I mean, and now I look back on it, I can't believe, like, I mean, it was telling me the truth then and there what my desire was and what was going to happen.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that psychedelics can do that. I really love I was explaining this to my roommate the other day. I just love the state of mind that acid puts you in. I love like the way I think when I'm on acid.
I feel like I can just pull together metaphors like it's nothing on acid.
I can too. I feel like things just connect in ways that they didn't before, and I really enjoy thinking about and seeing those connections.
I feel like, when you see Southern pastors get up and like preach and like they're going like fervently at this, like foaming at the mouth. You know, I feel like that's kind of almost a set of mind, like they're tripping on acid.
But so level 4 experiences. These can be reached at high doses of shrooms, LSD, or peyote. So at the level 4 trip, you have very strong open eye visuals, so much so that I don't know the right way to describe them. They are almost taking over your world with the amount of visuals you're seeing. Very difficult to tell where you are just from the sheer intensity of the visuals. At level 4 experience, or at the level 4 psychedelic experience, out of body experiences are also common, and so are spiritual visions. I think I briefly entered a level 4 experience during my most recent acid trip, but I think that's the only level 4 experience that I've ever had.
Yeah, I would say that would be a level 4 experience. Now that you're quantifying it to a scale, I'd say that's a level 4. Level 5 is you done fucked up stage.
Yeah, so the list that I found, they mentioned DMT as the norm for level 5 experience, but it's definitely not limited to that. DMT, extremely high
DMT
dose.
hallucinations are just exclusive to DMT. You're not gonna. I mean, if I ate 10 grams of mushrooms, I may have a DMT experience, but DMT experiences or visuals are so undescribable to other psychedelics.
Yes. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. But I do consider personally that a level 5 experience can be reached with X amount of psilocybin mushrooms. Also, I haven't tried it yet, but I have been reading that salvia is very similar to DMT, and that it is instant ego death. It is a very quick level 5 experience. The categorizations of level 5 experiences are immersions of the visuals. So the visuals are so powerful that you can't tell if you're in the right solar system or not. You're more so than level 4. Wait, repeat that.
That's some kind of fucked up if you don't even know you're in the right solar system. That's how lost am I?
Yeah, at that level, you couldn't name the dimension you're supposed to be in, the solar system you're supposed to be in. Just your whole world. You're seeing the same thing whether your eyes are open or closed. Just a massively visual and overwhelming experience. Other indicators of a level 5 experience can be enlightenment or nirvana. There's also a common theme of traveling quickly. For most people, it's being launched into hyperspace or just into outer space or into a different dimension. People say with a lot of level 5 experiences, it's like you're shot out of a cannon. And
the whole cry to Islands of Adventures.
Just like it. That is a level 5 experience. Also, contact with intelligent entities is very indicative of a level 5 experience. Admittedly, I have never had a level 5 experience.
Never seen the machine elves?
Never seen the machine elves. Never. I mean, like I said in our DMT episode,
They whispered in your ears dial-up tones.
Yeah, they tried to talk to me, but I wasn't smelling what they were cooking. Couldn't pick up what they were putting down.
Your radio was out of frequency.
Good analogy. Yes, my radio was out of frequency. That's kind of the little list of levels of the psychedelic experience. Trying to think. I also have a little bit more about ego death, but I think we've pretty much touched on everything.
We touched it pretty much. I mean, everything's getting pretty lit here. I mean, I think you heard some of it. But I think that was a good episode.
I think it was too. I was a little shaky about how it would start off, but I think it turned out pretty good. I do want to end the episode on a quote that I found. I can't remember. Can you repeat that?
I said tune in next time when I was going to end it, but
I think it's a quote by Timothy Leary, but I'm not 100% sure who said it. It was ego death is necessary for spiritual rebirth. I really like that. That kind of stuck with me when I read it.
You gotta tear away the veil to see the light.
I enjoy that as well. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the psychedelic experience, at least for now.
Join us again next time where we sacrifice hamsters to the gods.